The 1950s were all about fearing the bomb while chain smoking and imagining aliens in cornfields. Sci-fi was less about escapism and more about anxiety wrapped in rubber suits and wild special effects. But what if those alien invasions weren't just stories? What if they were warnings? We're going back to an era where scientists wore lab coats all the time, monsters emerged from both space and sea, and humanity's greatest fear wasn't death, it was communism. But in the middle of all the B-movie cheese and rubber suit nonsense, some films rose way above cinematic warnings, emotional gut punches, and eerie prophecies in disguise. And 6 of those sci-fi masterpieces from the 50s are exactly what we're looking into. According to what I think, these movies weren't just ahead of their time, they were literally trying to save it. And what better movie to begin with than The Day Earth Stood Still, which came out in 1951. I mean, it obviously isn't the best on this list, but it sure is a classic that deserves a spot here. Or at least that's what I think. This one's better known as the movie where Earth gets a cosmic performance review and fails ever so spectacularly. Klaatu comes in peace, which of course means the military isn't going to hesitate before immediately shooting him. Classic military behavior. But the real power isn't the robot or the flying saucer, it's the message. If you idiots don't calm down with the nukes, we'll have to vaporize you for the greater good. Subtle, yet to the point. Michael Rennie as Klaatu is all calm wisdom, like Space Jesus in a suit, and Gort, the silent metallic enforcer, became an icon with the emotional range of a toaster and the destructive power of 1,000 suns. The movie isn't about aliens, though it involves some, it's more about fear. Fear of change, fear of progress, fear of ourselves, and when Patricia Neal says Klaatu Barada Nikto with trembling sincerity, it's not just a command to spare Earth, it's a plea for sanity in a world hell-bent on allowing itself to blow up. Okay, now that we've been through interstellar judgment, how about we add a little spice to the interspecies invasion? And what better way to do that other than talking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which came out in 1956.
Jack! Where do they come from? I don't know.
Forget tentacle beasts. This movie brought us the real sci-fi horror, losing your individuality. Set in a sort of quiet town where almost nothing happens and people started acting a little too calm, which in the 50s was the immediate cause for alarm. The film taps into that post-war paranoia so deeply that it practically sweats McCarthyism. You don't know who to trust, everyone's a pod person, and being emotional is basically your only defense. The horror isn't even in the violence, it's in the slow, creeping dread that everything familiar just doesn't exist anymore. And that final scene with Kevin McCarthy screaming, "You're next," into traffic like a man on a caffeine bender, it still punches like a truck. At least for those who've seen it. Because in a world where people have been entirely consumed by conformity, the scariest thing isn't the alien, it's the creepy silence that gets to you. Now if that scene gave you chills, imagine what else is out there. Like and subscribe. Who knows? You might just uncover more hidden gems that'll have you questioning everything. The silence can be unsettling, but it's the truth that hits hardest. Stick around and keep exploring the moments that shake up the norm and leave a lasting impression. After all, you're next. Speaking of silence, it would be the perfect place to bring up Forbidden Planet, which came out in 1956. The film that dared to ask, what if we made it Shakespeare, but more about space? A reimagining of The Tempest wrapped in glowing colors and retrofuturism. This movie gave us one of the first ever serious sci-fi epics, and what did it come with? This masterpiece was accompanied by a robot sidekick so iconic it even outlived the franchise. Robbie the Robot is the real MVP, but it's Walter Pidgeon's Dr. Morbius who steals the spotlight. A genius who tapped into ancient alien tech only to be undone by his own subconscious rage. But hey, apparently even in the 23rd century, therapy is still a wonderful option to consider. The film's sleek visuals are really something, and that combined with the eerie electronic score makes it feel decades ahead of its time. And the idea that the real monster is the man's own or demons? That's not just sci-fi, that's existential horror just with a touch of lasers. But let's bring it back down to Earth, shall we? Where exactly on Earth? Whoever said that? We're talking specifically beneath it. Them. The movie that happens when atomic testing and ants have one of the worst nightmare interactions. Giant insects, military panic, and a desert that somehow looks more terrifying than space. It's the ideal 1950s creature feature. But for a movie about bugs, to our surprise, it's actually full of thought. The opening scene plays like some kind of horror film, complete with a traumatized child and mutilated bodies. And finally, when it's time for the ants to show up, they're not just oversized pests, they're a metaphor for unchecked nuclear power, mindless, multiplying, and impossible to win a debate with. It's a film that starts with a scream and ends in a hive of chaos. And as scientists squint through binoculars and soldiers unload endless rounds in the tunnels, you realize that this isn't about ants. It's about our reckless obsession with power and the nightmares we spawn in the process. If you like to switch moods every now and then, like me, and prefer your sci-fi a little more theatrical every once in a while, and slightly unhinged, allow me to reintroduce The War of the Worlds. H.G. Wells' classic novel gets a Technicolor upgrade, and the result is a spectacle of destruction so glorious, it might even get us to root for the Martians. The aliens arrive in these incredible-looking sleek ships shaped almost like a bunch of evil kitchen appliances, and their only goal is to make Earth their flaming playground. Gene Barry plays the square-jawed scientist who could ever point a finger at his remarkable acting, while Anne Robinson screams her way through the apocalypse like a true 1950s heroine. But beneath the chaos and pew-pew lasers lie a darker message. We're not in control. Be it nature or God, if you're into that, might be the only thing saving us from total annihilation or destruction. The Martians are not the kind to just fall for bombs or bravery. They're the type to die of common cold, proving once again that Earth's tiniest organisms are still undefeated. It's grand, it's loud, and it ends with the kind of divine shrug that says, "You survived, for now." And who knows what could happen next. And just when you think that you've seen every possible oversized menace, along slithers The Blob, 1958, reminding you that the horror party isn't over yet. This film dared to ask, what if the true villain was Jell-O? But not your average dessert, mind you. This stuff oozes with the kind of cold hunger that mirrors every unpaid bill and unread text message you ever avoided. It starts small, almost laughable, like a gooey red inconvenience. Then it grows, absorbs, and devours everything in its path. Everything, including Steve McQueen's dignity as a 28-year-old playing a teenager who's already losing his hair. But here's where the Blob really shines. Beneath all that gelatinous madness lies a profound fear of the unknown. The Cold War had everyone paranoid, seeing communism in their morning cereal, and this alien goo was vague enough to symbolize every unspoken fear. Things no one could name, but everyone sensed lurking just beneath the surface. The Blob wasn't just about a giant oozing monster. It was about the terror of things that you can't predict or control, a terrifying metaphor for the times, and still unsettling decades later. And finally, to wrap this whole thing up, I feel like going with the most paranoid film of them all, which would be the dramatic ending that everyone wants. The Thing from Another World. What makes this film so special? There's no CGI, no shape-shifting. What is it then? It's just pure bottled dread in the Arctic Research Station. The creature is technically an alien plant, which should be something everyone finds funny, but somehow it isn't. It bleeds green, hates warmth, and absorbs blood like it's shopping for transfusions for 1 million anemic patients. But the real tension isn't just in the monster, it's in the people. Trapped together, unsure who's infected, debating whether to fight or run. It's the original cabin fever sci-fi horror, and it paved the way for the every trust no one movie that came after. The overlapping dialogue, the sets that are so claustrophobic, and the gradual unraveling of logic all build to a fiery climax that's less about survival and more about control, I guess. And what's the message that it leaves us with? Sometimes the real danger isn't what's out there, it's what the fear does in us in the dark. So what did the 1950s teach us through sci-fi fever dreams? That aliens don't always come in peace. Science doesn't always have to have a conscience, and if the government tells you everything is fine, you should probably run. These films weren't just movies. They were prophetic warnings with matte paintings and orchestral shrieks. They predicted surveillance states, environmental collapse, Cold War meltdowns, and humanity's incredible capability to ruin everything with good intentions. What do you think? Did 50 sci-fi movies get the attention they deserve? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and share if you enjoyed the video. If you're into hidden gems, check out our last video on cursed 70s action films. And of course, subscribe for more.